Good evening. It looks like we are now live, I believe. Let me make sure that my screen updates with this. Cool. All right. So far, so good. So, welcome to part 9, modeling the weapon. We are getting super close with our initial phase. And I say initial because there tends to be always little things here and there that when you're working on a 3D model to have to come back to. But anyway, let's take a look here. So, quick update about scheduling. Right now, past 2 weeks have been kind of crazy for me. Went on vacation last week, and I think week before, there's other things that were going on that just made things a little bit crazier. So all that to say is that hoping to resume at least Mondays and Thursdays, hopefully Tuesdays as well, but that may be more up in the air going forward. Also, I think we can go ahead and jump right into this. For today, some of the things I wanted to work on were the trigger guard, magazine. And again, just as a reminder, this is a 3D model that is going to be used for a ideally comic book first and animation later. So we're not going for perfect realism here. Otherwise, we'd probably would attempt something that's a little bit more firearm looking, something that looks like one of the firearms that we're going to be taking a look at in just a second for reference. But we're not going for absolute realism here. This is something that's a little bit more sci-fi, a little bit more flexibility in the artistic style. And that's important because really, depending on what your end goal is as an artist and as a content creator, that's going to dictate what kind of details you're going to include and just how things are crafted. So again, this is more sci-fi, or maybe a better term is future world, and a little bit fantasy in this, not in the terms of magic, but in the terms of this is not exactly supposed to be mimicking reality with perfect closeness. This is more of a hybrid cartoon. And again, that's all that to say, while those things may not seem super important, it does affect the way that we're looking at this and our ultimate goal. Really, as long as our model fits our characters and there's not some kind of serious issue that we can't actually have the character hold the model because it's the wrong shape or whatever. Other than that, we can probably usually be pretty flexible given the art form we're going for. So just wanted to get that out of the way, and let's take a look at the optic. So covered this in the last video. The issue here is if we look at the reference here, and computer is slowing down on me. There we go. If we look at the reference here, everything's modeled pretty much according to the reference, pretty closely. But we're going to have some trouble with this optic. And this would be something like a red dot sight. Oops, no, I'm adjusting this wrong. Let's see, we want to adjust the item scale, I believe. Bring this back up to something like this. And in a second we'll snap it. So what I determined, if we model this according to how I envisioned it, and let's see, I'm going to believe I did this in the last video, but I didn't finalize it. Let's rotate everything. In fact, let me rotate our background here. Rotate 90 degrees. Let's see. I want to rotate R 90, press the minus sign, and now everything is rotated correctly. Perfect. So that's what we want. And yeah, looking pretty good. So the rest of the model is pretty close to what I envision as far as the overall width. However, if we make this optic as big as it was in the reference, and if we make it proportional to how I envisioned it, we ended up with something that's a little bit, arguably a little bit too big. Okay. So I wanted to take a look real quick, and you can see the link for this. The credit is in the description. I think the let me double check here. Yeah, Profiz is the creator. At least that's their username. And a link to the actual file is also in the description. So be sure to check that out. This is using the Creative Commons license, and so I have to attribute it to the original creator. So that's in the description. Okay. So let's take a look at this. Right off, something I notice is that it feels, well, there's a couple things I'm noticing. Width-wise, I think we proportionally had things pretty close in the model that we're making. I do notice that the handle is thinner, so that's one thing to note. That may be something we want to incorporate to make the gun body thicker and the handle thinner, so that we can basically get things, make it a little bit more realistic. Again, going back to what I said earlier, we're not going for perfect realism. However, that doesn't mean we're not drawing inspiration and certain details from more realistic models. And even this, I've not done kind of a one-to-one comparison to see how closely does this actually resemble the M4A1, which is what it's supposed to be. But it's something that, for reference, this I think would be hopefully close enough. One of the things I am noticing, however, again, based on what we were talking about earlier, the optic is actually significantly wider than the rest of our gun body here. This would be something like a red dot sight. Again, I don't have a rifle with me to compare, to see, okay, what does this look like in real life? This is sort of the quick and dirty way of checking this out in a 3D model that I assume has at least had some kind of work to match it according to the original. And of course, we could look up pictures and things just to get an idea of the proportions, but this is a lot faster in many ways, assuming the work was done to make sure that this was at least somewhat accurate. So that does give me, it is not necessarily a bad thing for the optic to go over the sides, per se. Stylistically, let's switch back here. Let me make sure that's showing up. Yeah, okay. Switch back to our standard weapon. Stylistically, it looks more awkward, of course, to have it hang over the sides. But because I do like the proportions here, and let me also make sure that this is not, I'm going to just make this touch like that. It doesn't have to be super precise. Yeah. The other thing too is something else I'm noticing is how far up it is on the rail, and I don't know that that would usually be the case on a realistic weapon. You'll notice that given the entire rail length, it's just past the trigger still over the trigger guard, so at least in this particular case. And that is something, unfortunately, I'm not as familiar with, is all the, for rifles, the zeroing things in and where the optic needs to be on the rail, at least not yet. I certainly plan to be more familiar with that, hopefully in the near future, but right now those are just, I have the concepts of zeroing in and those kinds of things, but I don't have a real rifle to actually experiment with and start learning those things, so that will have to be something hopefully I can get done in the near future. But for now, yeah, the biggest things I'm noticing, obviously we don't have the bulge of the handguard to have to deal with, and we're a little bit more consistent on our stock shape. So the biggest thing is the optics and the fact that the grip, I may have called this a handle earlier, that's usually called a grip, I believe. The grip is a little bit thinner and the optics are thicker. So going back to the standard weapon, yeah, taking a look here, I might do sort of hybrid. I like the dimensions here, but I might scale this a little bit. Let's switch to medium point for our pivot point and scale this along the y-axis just a little bit, not necessarily much. And that's looking pretty good. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. So later on, we might want to create a cutout for the rail system and the rails themselves. I don't know that I'm going to get there today, but the biggest thing I wanted to make sure that this wasn't way off according to, I might even make that just a touch thinner, according to what might actually be realistic. Like I said, I like the proportions, although that does seem to be perhaps a little bit tall for something like a red dot. Let me see. Maybe not. We actually have a pretty good height here. Okay. So we might go with this for now. We might shrink it down a little bit and change the proportions just ever so slightly as we figured that out for what we want to do. In fact, I might even pull this back. And one of the things is, again, this is a fictional weapon, so yeah, this would be over the trigger, but at the same time, our grip, I believe, is maybe a good bit forward of our stock back here. So there's a couple different ways we may actually end up doing this. And that, again, I'll have to take a look at some of these factors, figure out, okay, what makes sense. And not that all the details about zeroing in are necessarily important for this particular project, although I still want to understand those basics. But looking here, yeah, it's something that I'll still want to know, partly because I want to know them, but also for the purposes of this project, it's kind of a balance of what do we want in terms of how realistic do we want to make it, and where do we say, okay, we don't need that level of realism, because again, this is a future world cartoon and doesn't necessarily need all of those details. So I'm going to go with something like that for now, and we'll again, I'll hopefully figure out what position realistically we'd want that to be. I want to say it makes more sense to have it further back, given realism, but we'll have to research that. Okay, so finally in this video, let's see if we can get to. I think I'll skip the rail and work on that later when we have more details of what we want there. Let's take a look at the trigger guard, and the magazine, and the barrel. And this is a weapon, again, because we're not going for realism here, this is a weapon that will likely be more of some kind of blaster or plasma gun rather than, say, a actual firearm. And that's TBA. We may switch it from one to the other, in which case, if we do actually go with firearm, we'll need to have some kind of ejection port as well as the cocking handle. All right. Okay, so one thing else that I'm noticing again here, one other thing is that these insets seemed to be pretty large. So I'm going to select, let's say, coplanar, no. Okay. Well, let me double check something here. Make sure I'm getting my live comments, if we're getting any of those. Well, let me check them here. Okay, nothing yet, I don't think. I've got my phone set up, but for some reason the app is not letting me see the current video I'm working on. So I'm not sure what's up with that, but hopefully I can get that fixed next time around. But for now, I can just switch over to the other window, and it looks like everything is good, and I can see the comments. Okay, so moving right along, we are good to go here. So hopefully slimmer. I need just experimenting here. I don't know that I'm going to get it. I may have to select these manually. Okay, so selecting that, selecting this portion here. So far, so good. And we will move this. Actually, you know what? We really want, because we have this loop here, we really want to grab that and I believe move it forward. And we can ignore these holes for now because those will need to be a different depth. And that's looking a little bit better. Those to me seemed a little bit too far inset. And of course we need to do that one more place, and that is here. Actually, I might leave that offset just for the style. Yeah, I think I actually like that. So let's make sure. Looks like I missed this a couple faces down here. Thankfully, we should be able to snap those to there. Oh, it looks, I missed a lot here, didn't I? Well, let's see. What? I grabbed all that. Okay. Okay, gotcha. Just having to snap everything into place. We're using the y-axis primarily, making sure everything is snapped accordingly. Let's make sure, let's see, this didn't get all the way over. And it looks like we have some missed ones, and looks like we didn't even get these. Come on. Perfect. Okay. You have to be really careful with that kind of thing. It's easy to make a mistake. All right. So far, so good. Okay. And this, and this. Let's try to get, and maybe the barrel. Let's see how far we can get. What do we want to start with? I'm going to start with the mag. Just because I know it's going to be trickier than the other pieces. Whoops. Let's turn off snapping. And all the way. And it looks to me, I don't know if this is on purpose, but it looks to me, oh wait, you know what am I doing? I've had too many interruptions in this project, so I should have a mag base plate. Should have those here. Okay, those didn't get rotated, so rotate. Let's see if we can rotate that back along the 3D cursor. Perfect. 90. Okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah. Forgot what I forgot that we had those. Let's also turn on the trigger and trigger guard and rotate those as well. Again, we want to make sure that we're viewing this orthographically and from the right so that we can rotate it along the right axis. Optics. Okay, so we have like copies of the optic, so we don't need that. Call this final. Whoops. Looks like I switched languages here. And okay, perfect. All right, so back to mag. So we already have this cut out. And so let's see. I'm going to extrude this, but we don't need to extrude it as wide as the... Let's see, we can make that a little bit. Switch back to medium point. Make this not quite so wide as the gun body. In a second here, we'll try to center things up, but for now, let's let's see here how we want to split things up. I want to take, oh, also, looks like I forgot to make this all quads. So let me erase all those points, and let's cut across here real quick. This should just take a second. 1, 2, 3. Actually, hold up. Dissolve that point. Perfect. So far, so good. And then let's cut across here and same down here. And it looks like we need something to split this. Yeah, because we have this down here, and technically speaking, we probably should also do a knife cut across like that and merge these 2 points, merge at last. That just gives us a little bit more control over our edge loops. And then can we slide this? Control E and edge slide. Edge slide, perfect. That's almost what we want, not exactly, but double G, we can vertex slide that, and that's pretty close. Oh wait, let's see, is that right? Yes, it is. Okay, just double checking everything, and let's extrude this. In fact, let's because we're gonna have to center this and flip it to the sides. Let's do a mirror. I'm going to delete that side. Mirror modifier. It's going to look terrible until we let's try applying the rotation so that we can. Oh, that doesn't look terrible. Where is the okay? Okay, so that actually did what I want. Perfect. Nope, that did not do what I wanted. Let's flip that around and then do clipping, and then perfect. Okay, moving right along, and switching over to. Looks like I got this on the wrong side, so we could scale along the y-axis and apply that scale to fix that. And we want to inset, actually we want a couple different insets here. We want to grab those, and technically, really, we want to inset these as well, based on what we're going to go with. And inset, and we're gonna have some extra stuff here. Let's snap this. Whoops. Snap this to vertices. We will merge by distance, get rid of all the extra points, and then erase anything on the edge that we don't need, like these. Delete faces, perfect. And this doesn't, don't need that. Delete faces, okay, perfect. So far, so good. And then finally, this guy, we'll probably just do a simple inset here. But we want this mirrored. So let's see, double check that that's gonna work on the right side. Delete that face. And mirror this along the y-axis, apply the rotation. What applying the rotation or scale or location does is we can rotate something as an object, and then we can reset that at any point. However, if we apply that rotation, that then gets applied in edit mode, or applied to the edit mode. So now that's permanent, so to speak. So I don't want to do that. Let's undo that until we're here. Okay. And this is one of the things where, this is not exactly the most realistic firearm type magazine. So we likely will turn this into some kind of plasma blaster, because this honestly looks like it holds 3 rounds, maybe more. if we had something into the gun body, but this really doesn't look like we're holding much. Okay. Actually, you know what? Let's see if we can move this along the normal. Nope. Okay, so let's create a custom orientation and move it without snapping along here. Perfect. This just looks, look like it's just a touch too much. Okay, same here. Let's move this down and this down as well. And then finally, let's turn on clipping, make sure that that's okay. Switch back over. I'm going to delete that custom. Delete the custom orientations, and we will go to, we want global, and move along the y-axis to make sure that these have snapped together because of the clipping. And maybe move that forward a touch, and then press I to inset, and then extrude to pull that in. All right. Perfect. So let's see if we can quickly apply our modifiers. Like before. Make links, modifiers, and we'll need to select similar face angles. Perfect. Now let's add 0.02. And looks like there's a couple more spots here to tighten this up. This spot needs it. Any of these corners will need this. Nope. There we go. One corner here. One corner there. One corner there. Alright, so 0.02. That looks much better. And we can go ahead. Whoops. Let's do change our mirror here. Looks like that was copied over. And say shade smooth. Oh, that's beautiful. Alright, and let's see what we need to do here. We might be able to get away with just a bevel for this one. Let's see, let's copy. This one has just a bevel in the weighted normal. And we will copy modifiers. Of course, we need to add the auto smooth, and we need to add the mirror modifier back in along the just the Y. And it looks like, let's move this up here. Weighted normal, something, auto smooth is correct. Something or another is not working. I assume that's because we need to select our edges. All right, let's say select similar face angles, 0.02. Perfect. Okay. And then later on, hopefully, we'll center this. Actually, let's see if we can center this now. I'm going to say cursor to selected. And can we say, I wish I could say, there's probably a way to do this, but selection of cursor. And then we'll just move it into place. There should be a way, I believe, to there's probably a way to do that from the cursor, or at least I know we can do that from a particular point that we pick. So ideally this would actually be inset, but if we're going to get to that, that will have to be a later video. But hopefully we can do like an extrude up and fix that. Okay, looking good. Let's see if we can get at least the trigger. Barrel may have to be next video. But let's see if we can get at least the trigger and trigger guard. This should be easy here. That's just an extrude and make sure we center it. And we have a notch here. I think in the... Okay, so we included that, I guess, kind of ish. We have this notch here. I want to adjust this just a little bit. Let's see. Let's do Control E, edge slide. Cool. And yeah, let's see. Let's do that here too. I want to make this just a touch bigger. Okay. And let's do the same thing. Select all of this using L. Press E. And we'll snap to this point here. Whoops. That I don't think worked. Okay. All right, let's try this again. Perfect. And then let's see if we can inset this a little bit. In fact, let's add 2 edge loops. And then press 0 to center them, scale along the y-axis, and we will extrude. Perfect. Merge by distance, move 6 vertices. That's what I want to see. And delete those extra faces. So now we at least have some kind of inset here. That may not be enough, but I think for now that will do. Okay, so grab these. Doesn't look like we'll let's see this. Yes, we will. Never mind. We'll need the subdivision surfaces, so I will say make links to modifiers, and we don't need the mirror stuff, but we will need the edges here. I'm going to select this guy, that edge here, select similar face angles. Perfect. And also, okay, got those. Perfect. So I'm going to do 0.02, and it has these parts there. And that's exactly what I want. It does look like this needs it as well. And that's what I want. Oh, you know what? Somehow I didn't get it on this side, so because these are 2 separate objects. Face angles. Perfect. All right, now let's see if we can smooth these out. And subdivision. Perfect. Yeah, we might bump up the subdivision to a little bit more on the display, but yeah, once we zoom out, that's pretty good. And then finally, hopefully these are centered. They are not. So I'm gonna say center set origin to geometry, and then we want to jump these to the cursor, selection to cursor, and we will move these back into place. Trigger doesn't have to be as precise because we're insetting it anyway. Hello. Oh, you know what? Something didn't work. Selection of cursor. Those are centered. Okay. And we'll grab this and that. Perfect. And at some point, hopefully we can create a cutout here, but this will do for now. And that might be it for this video, guys. Just because I'm, see, rendering is paused. Let's turn that. Okay. I'm a little bit mentally fatigued right now, but I'm pretty happy with the progress we made today. And the barrel should be coming soon. So let's turn on these materials. And that looks mighty nice. Let's see. Okay, there we have it from an angle that we can see all the highlights and stuff. There we go, even better. All right. So yeah, we're getting really close. Besides the barrel and I think it's just the barrel is the only major feature left. The barrel and the rails. The only other thing is fine tuning, so I might add more of a smooth edge up here along the gun body to make it look a little bit more, not quite so harsh. Right now it looks, almost like it's made out of sheet metal. It's just got these really hard angles, so I might add a little bit of softness to the gun body, not necessarily to everything, but to certain parts of it, just to smooth things out a little bit more bevel. We might make the gun a little bit thicker and just leave the grip a little thinner, possibly also the grip guard. And yeah, guys, we're getting really close with this. Happy with the way this is turning out. All right, I think that's it for now. Like I said, the next video should hopefully be ideally tomorrow, but at the latest, hopefully Thursday. And I also plan to do a little bit better at communicating if I'm not going to be able to do a live stream, then to basically put something out there saying, hey, tonight there's no live stream. But yeah, then we have the finishing details, such as the bolts and things. And we're getting close. Oh, and we need to do the cocking handle at some point. There's always those, one thing you forgot. But yeah, looking pretty good. And then, of course, once everything's sort of done, we have to be careful that we might have to modify things later. So anything we do may still not be set in stone in the event that the character doesn't fit the model or this, this, that, and the other. So hopefully we can test some of that. Even with testing, there are things that get missed and whatnot, but hopefully we can test some of that and then start working on things like the texture. And then at that point, after we've worked on the texture for this model and it's ready to go as an asset, we hopefully can begin applying the same logic and pattern to other objects as well, so or even buildings. So we'll need the main base, we'll need some of the aircraft hopefully soon, and things like that, maybe also some buildings. And with that, we'll have our assets, our hero assets, so to speak, and then for secondary things like plants and things of those that nature, pun intended, we'll hopefully be able to combine our assets that we're creating with assets we can buy, like plants and possibly certain locations like homes and things like that. So, all right, guys, that is it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon.